Well, I hope all you notch haters out there are happy because Apple's getting rid of the notch, but they found the most anticlimactic way to do it possible. Let's begin. So before all of you go, no way, there's no chance in heck Apple would ever do that, what if I told you this news is coming from one of the most reliable sources in the industry, Ross Young. This is the guy that told us the iPhone 12 wasn't going to have 120 hertz. This is the same guy that told us we would get 120 hertz on the new MacBook Pros when no one else did. Now he's coming forward and saying, you know how some of you want the hole punch cutout and some of you were wanting the pill-shaped camera cutout? Turns out Apple wants to please both parties somehow and is going to include both in the iPhone 14. So yeah, maybe because they couldn't figure out how to get the Face ID sensors under the display properly, now they're going to include as many as they can, but still not have a notch technically. Now you guys are finding out how easy it is for me to say I'm gonna skip this year's iPhone, because of course you're not really gonna get much more usable space with this. You'll cram a few dozen pixels above those holes, and sure, it might technically be a higher screen to body ratio, and that will, in someone's psychology book, make it look slightly more immersive than having a notch, but end of the day, you will absolutely use your phone the same way you use it today. But the truth is, even if the notch or the camera hole and everything was going away in 2022 and it was just going to be a fully bezel-less front display, you're still going to use your phone the same way at the end of the day, which is why I'm personally totally disconnected from whether or not Apple goes through with this, or if it's a tiny hole punch or if it's no hole punch. Really makes no difference to me at the end of the day. I just want to keep you guys in the loop and let you guys know that Ross Young is feeling very, very confident about this report. He's doubling down that he thinks this is close to being finalized, and it makes sense because I always thought getting as many sensors as possible behind the OLED display was going to be difficult for Apple because that display technology is not being able to produce at a high volume yet, which is pretty much what Apple needs every single year if they want to introduce something in the iPhone. It has to be able to scale. They have to be able to make tens of millions of them, unlike other Androids which have under-display cameras, but they're only built a couple million, sometimes less every year. It's a bit more achievable for them. So to those out there saying, no, the notch is iconic, the notch is recognizable, you know, they just put it on the new MacBook Pro, so there's no way they would ditch it suddenly on the iPhone, I would actually argue that this cutout approach, where it literally looks like the letter I at the top of the device, actually has a chance of being just as iconic. You know, if you look back to the iPhone 4 or iPhone 6 days, we always had that kind of earpiece with the camera hole right next to it, and I think that kind of applies to this bezel-less trend where, okay, the display and the pixels are taking up as much space as possible, but you just have that tiny little cutout at the top, and I get that in this case it would not be the earpiece, that would still be between the glass and the steel or the aluminum, but I think it would still inherently look very iPhone, and I think it would give it quite a bit of character that just doing the simple one camera hole cutout, just like every other Android on the market, would just not offer. It would just make the iPhone blend into everything else, and it would not be easy to differentiate an iPhone from an Android. But like I always say, I feel like that's our inevitable future when it comes to smartphone development. They're all going to look the same eventually, but in the meantime, if Apple wants to have a recognizable, iconic design trait, having that pill hole cutout alongside the single camera cutout would probably work fairly well. Not to mention, the wallpapers make themselves, right? You've got an I at the top of your iPhone, just spell out the rest of the text or put in any word you want, and now at the top of the device you've got your exclamation mark, which you can get really, really creative with marketing now. Apple surely won't do that, but I'm sure the tech community will. But of course, I'm very curious to hear how you guys feel about this approach. I know so many of you already hate it, and I've been through this trend before. You know, it's always around January or February where we start getting some leaks and everyone goes, oh, that's hideous, that's ugly, Apple will never do that, and then come around September, you'll finally see some pictures of it and go, yeah, okay, it's actually not too bad, I can get used to it, and the average consumer will probably never even notice. We removed the notch, but what did it cost? Everything? Feel free to let me know your thoughts on it down below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you all in the next one.